Thank you. You want your own?
Thank you. Thank you, Jim. All right, just a couple of quick announcements first. If everyone could just check their phones, make sure it's either off or the ringer is down. All right, and for the candidates here this evening and those that could not make it, Adam has told me that GTV, for any candidate running, can be, and he will help you basically make your own little ad that will run on GTV. So probably a great idea to catch up with him and speak to him about that. It's well worth it. Okay. So everyone here has spoke with me who's a candidate. We're all set with that? Excellent. Very good. All right, what we're going to do this evening is basically what we've done in the past. I will call the candidates up one by one. Your speeches should be about 3 minutes if you'd like. Don't worry about going under or going over. That's just a timetable we look on that. I am going to ask if the candidates, when we're done this evening, could possibly just stay for a few minutes. So if anyone here has any questions for them, if they could catch up with the candidates after we have finished this evening. We just find it's just easier to do it that way. So if you have a few minutes when we're done, that would be great. So, and I also want to thank all of you that were able to be here tonight. I noticed one thing in calling, getting in touch with the candidates. They're definitely familiar names, and we, thank you for your continuing service to Goffstown. But it was also nice to see some brand new names, people I hadn't spoken with before. So good luck to all of you in next month's election, and thank all of you for wanting to serve the town of Goffstown. It's greatly appreciated. So we are going to start this evening with the gentleman who told me he can hardly talk. He's having a little trouble with his voice, but we'll have, this is for Budget Committee, and I'm going to call Bill Cordes up to speak. Best you can, Bill.
Thank you. Okay. My family moved to Goffstown from Massachusetts back in 1955 and spent about 53 years on Blackbrook Road. I went through the Goffstown system. I didn't say this last year when I ran, but yes, I was valedictorian in a class of about 102 people. Senior class, the first class to graduate from Goffstown High School in 1966. I did undergraduate work at Wesleyan University. I was in the same class as Jim Raymond, who is standing in the back of the room reading and ignoring what I'm saying. And I did graduate work at UNH in German studies. I also studied abroad in Europe. I taught for a while, mostly in public school, mostly grades 7 through 12, and some adult classes locally when we used to have a German society in Manchester. And I also had a career in book retail management, both here in Manchester and down in Connecticut. Now that I'm semi-retired, although I still do some freelance translation work, I volunteer with the Friends of the Goffstown Public Library. I have to put a plug in for them because we need more friends. Last year ran unopposed for the one-year position available in the Budget Committee. So this past year I've rather apprenticed in detail in the procedures and how we go about dealing with the budget for an entire year and what the feedback is like in the presentations. And I must say, and this is not just to flatter people, I've been consistently impressed by the high quality of people, not just on the Budget Committee, but from the school board and everyone else who've made presentations repeated presentations to the Budget Committee. These people, for the most part, are very experienced and very knowledgeable and very competent. So I waited this time to see who would go for Budget Committee, and there were 4 slots for 3 years, and only 2 people applied, so I made it a third. I think it's important that we try to have these positions filled, certainly on the Budget Committee, for one very obvious reason, that if you don't have all the slots filled and you meet and there are not enough people at the meeting, you don't have a quorum and you can't conduct business. Any questions, or do we do that later? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bill. One of the other candidates, Fred Flett, could not be here this evening. He sent me a little blurb here to read for him. So pardon me while I don't look at you. I have to look down and read here. I am a candidate for the Goffstown Budget Committee in the town elections to be held March 10th. I wish I could be here tonight for the Goffstown Lions candidate night. I cannot because I am not only a Goffstown Lion, but multiple council chair for multiple District 44 Lions covering the entire state of New Hampshire. I am very civic-minded. I have lived in Goffstown since 1974. In that time, I have served on almost every town committee, including Planning Board Chair, Budget Committee Vice Chair, Solid Waste Commission Chair, Capital Improvement Committee Chair, and many others. I am privileged to serve the town currently and as representing the state for the Department of Energy. I've had a 12-year hiatus serving on the town committee because of my Lions duties going up the ranks beyond the club level and because of a job in Boston requiring a major commute. I am now retired and willing to serve the town to be Budget Committee member. Thank you. I ask the townspeople for their vote. Thank you, Fred. Okay, next on our list of the candidates will be for library trustees, and we'll begin with Amy Hunterman.
Good evening, everyone. I want to thank the Lions Club for hosting tonight, and Diane and the staff at the library for putting together the candidates brochure. There's one up here. I'm Amy Hunterman. I'm the current chair of the Library Board of Trustees. I've been serving as the chair for the last 2 years. My family and I moved to Goffstown 5 years ago. I have a little daughter. She's about to turn 7. And my husband, we're all library lovers. We're library advocates. You can find all of us around town chatting up the library. My husband uses the ebooks or the audiobooks, the digital audiobooks for his commute. My daughter loves to check out books now. She has her own library card, so she loves the self-checkout. She loves to just go in and browse. She'll tell you that her superpower is reading. Thank you, Glen Lake Kindergarten, for that. And I use the library too, obviously. So I learned something last year that I didn't know, and that I didn't realize that people don't know what it is that a library trustee does. We're basically like the governing board of the library. The policies, the procedures, that kind of stuff, like the rules that you have to follow in the library, we approve those and we review them all the time. We cover the budget, we present the budget and review it. There's a lot of work involved in what we do, but it's really worth it for us because our job helps to make the staff's jobs easier and it makes the library better. Nerves every time, you know? I have served on the board for the last 4 years here, and I served 4 years in Derry at the smaller of the 2 libraries as well. So I've got plenty of experience. I've spent a lot of time going to workshops for the New Hampshire Library Trustees Association. They have an annual conference every year. They have workshops about everything that we need to know about all the laws and the rules and how to make everything easier and better. And so I don't want to take up any more time. I'm good. I don't want to take up that much more time. I'm running unopposed, thankfully. Makes it a little less pressure this time. I hope that you will vote for library trustees. I hope you educate yourself on what we do. If you have any questions, I'm happy to talk to you about that later. Please, Amy Hunteman, library trustee, 3 years. I would love your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. And next up, we have Kathy Coughlin.
Hi there, good evening. I wanted to thank the Lions Club and the library for helping to put Candidates Night together again. It's always great for everyone to be informed about everyone who's running for public office, so thank you very much for your hard work. My name is Kathy Coughlin. I'm a Goffstown resident. Goffstown's my hometown. I left, went away to school. I'm a veterinarian, so I did undergrad in Maine and then vet school out in Michigan. I worked in Massachusetts for a few years, and then I moved back home about 10 years ago. I'm running for the library trustee 3-year term. I've been a library trustee since I won as a write-in candidate in 2015. And during that time, I've been able to hold the various positions. I've been vice chair, I've been chair. I'm currently on 2 active committees of the board. In the past couple of years, I've been part of a major overhaul of the policy manual, a reworking of the wage matrix for the library, and also helped produce the survey that the library put out last year. In 2019, the Goffstown Public Library was named the New Hampshire Library Trustee Association Library of the Year. That's a really great honor, and it really goes down to how hard the trustees work, how hard Diane Hathaway, the library director, works, as well as all the staff members at the library. That is a really great honor for our library in town to be given that honor. The Library Board of Trustees, Amy kind of just explained some of the nuts and bolts of what we do. It's a very dynamic board. It takes a lot of time. It's because we are the governing board of the library. We have lots of meetings, lots of documents to review, and the committee work is pretty labor intensive. I know what it takes to be a library trustee, and I am asking for your vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kathy. And next up, we have Samantha Holman.
Good evening. Thank you to the Lions Club, Goffstown High School, GTV, and the Goffstown Public Library for facilitating this event, and thank you all for being here tonight. My name is Samantha Holman, and I'm seeking re-election for the position of Library Trustee for 3 years. I've lived in Goffstown for 6 years. I grew up in Londonderry, and when my husband and I were ready to buy our first home, we knew that we wanted to raise our daughters in a similar town, somewhere safe, somewhere small, somewhere with a great school system. We have one at Maple Avenue now and one at Mountain View. And when we moved here, I realized that Goffstown actually isn't like a lot of the other small towns in New Hampshire. It's special, and it is a very tight-knit community. And the Goffstown Public Library is a big part of that. I'm currently the vice chairperson of the Library Board of Trustees, and during my 3 years with the board, I've served on the Human Resources and Building and Facilities Committees. And in my 6 years in Goffstown, I've volunteered at Maple Avenue School in the library and as a popcorn popper on Fridays with the PFT. I've also helped coach girls 8U lacrosse with Parks and Rec, and I'm a member of the New Hampshire Library Trustees Association. Professionally, I manage a team of 9 Nissan digital marketing consultants across 14 states, for a consulting organization under Nissan North America. I hold a Bachelor of Arts in Communications from Simmons University and a Master of Science in Marketing from Southern New Hampshire University. The Goffstown Public Library is not only the 2019 Library of the Year, but is an integral part of our community. I believe the library is more than just a repository for books. It's a cornerstone of our community activity. It offers public access to computers, career and tax information, electronic and downloadable media, and an array of public interest programs. In fact, last year, more than 10,000 people attended the library's 482 programs. I believe that the library's mission to serve as a primary resource for community information and provide a comfortable place for our residents to access quality materials and programming. And I humbly ask for your vote on March 10th so that I can continue working as an advocate for the library's mission. Thank you.
Thank you, Samantha. On that note, I do want to take a moment and thank Diane once again for all her help putting the candidates night together. Diane, you do a great job as always. Thank you. It's very appreciative. Okay. You know, Diane and I were talking before we started, and the library has a huge fan. It's I think I mentioned this last year. It's my wife, who sends me down there on constant missions to pick things up for her. I don't even have to say who I am anymore. The ladies at the front desk, as I walk in with the bag, Janine's sewing bag, they are already pulling the stuff off the shelves. They know who I am. But like I said before, if you have not visited, go. Just go walk around. There's quite a few things in there. It's not just about books. It's about a lot more. Plus, the other thing I wanted to mention that the library has, which is great, is the passes, the different museums and everything. They have passes to some museums. To be blunt, I kind of forgot they were there. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. So definitely sometime go in, talk to the people, look around, see what's available for for you or your entire family. So thank you again. Appreciate it. Okay, moving forward. Next up is the Planning Board, and I'll call up Jim Raymond.
Thank you. I'm Jim Raymond. I'm running for re-election for the Planning Board. Bill, I was reading your bio while you said I was ignoring you. I did pay attention. And I urge you to vote for Phil Devanza, who's going to speak next for the Planning Board, and to watch the Planning Board on television regularly to see what color Devanza clock shirt he's going to wear, a sweatshirt he's going to wear. He's come for the last, I think, 8 meetings with a different colored but otherwise the same sweatshirt each meeting. He's a fashion maven, so please support him. I want to talk for a minute on what the Planning Board does. Most of you know this, but it just bears repeating. Towns don't happen on their own. Good libraries don't happen on their own. Good schools don't happen on their own. People make them happen. Some of us believe that it takes, human intervention to make towns work. That's why we're here. But you think on the planning side, land use underlies what happens in a town. It creates your tax base. It determines who's going to live there, whether new families are going to be able to come in, whether old people are going to be able to stay or find places to live. That's part of the function of the Planning Board. And we do that by looking at applications for site plans and subdivisions, but we also make recommendations for the zoning ordinance changes. We do the subdivision and site plan regulations. We do the master plan, which sets overall planning goals with a vision for the town, and many of you have participated in that. And we do the capital improvements program every year. Those are planning functions we do. We're governed by statute, by case law, by our own regulations, zoning ordinance that the town passes, and by our own judgment. David Pierce, for example, is an engineer, has been on the planning board as a selectman's rep and an alternative. He brings skills, but we also have to bring some judgment on how we balance the different pressures, whether you want growth and tax base, do you want to preserve your residential character, the features that make this a nice place to live, like just described in the library. There's some balance that's drawn. Where do you draw that balance? I don't know. You have to use judgment. See, people come in with an agenda and say, we're going to do such and such, but then you say, wait a minute, life is a little more complicated. And every land use change, or every land use approval you make affects somebody else. So one of our goals is to find that balance. I think we do it pretty well. We don't do it perfectly. And it takes participation by people like you to make it work. So no guarantees, but we'll keep working in that direction. I also want to make a plug for civic engagement. I'm preaching to the choir, but if you came to school meeting with a moderator making the same speech somehow, and the town meeting, thinly attended, some people know who that moderator is, so they're laughing at my inside joke. People have to come, and you have to bring your neighbors, and you have to bring young people, and that's the challenge. You look around the room, and some people have grayer hair than others, but we need to get young people involved. And I think the way you do that is to say, hey, Susan, come down. They don't come on their own because a lot of them didn't grow up in a town system. Some of the people who spoke earlier moved to town, discovered what a nice place it is, but somebody has to tell them. As part of being in the town is to be involved in the town. So come do that. Don't be a passive resident. Be an active one. That's my request to you. We try to pass it on. It's a culture we build in Goffstown. I'd like to keep it going, and we have to work at that. So, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. And next up is our fashion designer, Phil Devanza, if he could step up.
I don't know how I can beat that introduction by my colleague, James Raymond, so I'll have to ask you to also vote for James Raymond. I promised him that I would do that. As you can see, we do have a good rapport on our boards here in Goffstown, and I believe we have good outcome from our relationships with our colleagues. I've served on the planning board. I'm in my second term. Prior to that, I spent 23 years on the Board of Selectmen. And many times when I come here and I see the progress that's been made by GTV 16 and how we have staff that operate it, it brings back a memory when I served on a board of 3 selectmen at the time, and GTV 16 was just a thought that we came up with, and we incorporated it. And we used to have to get a volunteer to come to the selectmen's meetings to videotape it and take it back and do a whole bunch of stuff and get it on within a few days it would take. And now it's live streamed, and it's fantastic. And I've got to hand it to Adam and all his predecessors and the progress that's been made on it for the community. But with that, Jim did give you a good overview of the process of the planning board. I bring perspective as my background, my years on the Board of Selectmen from an administrative view, looking at that along with the entire planning process that's on there. I own and operate an antique clock repair business, and I do restorations of many of the renowned clock towers throughout New England. Gives me a perspective of different communities and relationships. And one of the unique things you find about New Hampshire, not only New Hampshire, I thought it was only in New Hampshire, where the town clock happens to be in a church. And everybody wants to know, why is a town clock in a church? Well, that goes back many, many years when the towns were being built. And the first thing that came in, they built a church, somebody donated a clock, and they said, well, most logical place is put in a tower in the church. That's how the town clock got into it. And as I go on, I find you have the same thing in Vermont, you have the same thing in Pennsylvania, and it's very, very also Massachusetts, and many, many people to this day just don't understand how that ever happened, but it happens. That's New England, and that's New Hampshire. So welcome, everybody that's moved into town, that's enjoyed it, the expansion of the town. Again, I'm running for re-election to the Goffstown Planning Board, and I ask for your vote on Tuesday, March 10th. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Phil. All right, next is Sewer Commission, and we'll call up Will Singleton.
Thank you, sir. And thanks for having us tonight. Thank you all. My name is Will Singleton, proud resident of Shirley Park for the last 23 plus years. I grew up in Manchester, but I've been here for 23 plus years. So I wanted to chip into Goffstown and give back because it's been great for me. Like, to be here, to come here, experience everything that Goffstown's given to me, and I'm in a position to give back. And that's what I want to do. I worked for the Manchester Highway Department when I went to school in East Carolina University. I worked for the Sewer Commission. I worked in the sewer, I worked there. And I felt like, this is a time in my life that I can give back. And that's what I want to do. Simply as that, I just want to give back. When I first came here 20 some odd years ago, I went to a Sewer Commission meeting, and I live on Glen Lake, right over here, and they were like, I'm like, we live on the lake and we have septic? And all the houses have septics. And so I went to the commission, and they said, yeah, they're like, you guys are next on the list. That was 20 some odd years ago. Then I went back like 3 years after that, and I was like, it's still kind of weird. And they're like, you're nowhere on the list. That made me scratch my head. So I'm in a position right now where I can give back, give my time, and that's what I'm here for. And thank you very much. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Will. I see that David Pierce is here. David?
Thank you, Ken. And thank you for Jim Raymond doing a little good pitch about the town. All of us seeking offices we're building on a lot of work that's come before us. And one little I'm running for sewer commissioner. 28 miles of pipe are under our roads. We pump 28 million gallons every month to our neighbor in Manchester to process. And, the pipes have been the first pipe went in the ground in 1930, 90 years ago. So much for history. I am running for sewer commissioner, 3-year term. I graduated from UMass as a civil engineer. And in the military, a few years after I entered the military, I got a professional engineer's license, since I'm a civil engineer, registered in Virginia. And the point of that is both my courses at UMass and my professional engineer license, the standards for that, I had to be knowledgeable about sewer design and wastewater treatment plants. I still know a few of those terms, even though it was quite a few years ago that I went to college. I've been involved in many town activities. My first experience was 5 years on the Historic Society, on their board of directors. But I've served 2 terms as a select board member. I've served 2 terms as a state representative in Concord. I'm currently an alternate member to the planning board, and I'm also represent Gulfstown at the regional planning level, Southern New Hampshire Regional Planning Commission. And the people on that board have appointed me as their treasurer. So one of my first loves in town, though, as an engineer, has been that I'm the project manager for building the Gulfstown Rail Trail. I'm very happy that I've written successful grants that have brought in $1.1 million of construction on that trail. And if anybody has $300,000, I can finish the trail. I've had 2 professions in my career, 20 years in the U.S. Army, Corps of Engineers, retiring a lieutenant colonel, company commander twice in Germany, once in Vietnam. I've held most of my other military experience has been a research and development officer for new weapon systems. When I left the military, I became a federal civilian worker in the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. That's the defense agency that makes all the map products for the services. I was responsible. I was a first-line supervisor for production of maps. I was the agency director for quality control and a senior executive officer on a production department. The point of that is I've had 40 years of experience developing I had the skills for contract management, justifying long-term budgets, executing budgets, and construction activities involved in my military experience too. My family, Ruth and I, live on Mill Street, and by the way, just like Will, I am a customer of the sewer department. My adult children live in Bedford and one's in Orlando. So I'm very thrilled about having this opportunity to continue my service to the community. Dave Pierce, running for sewer commissioner for 3 years. Please vote for me.
Thank you, David. And next up, we have Town Clerk Kathy Ball.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Ball, and I'm running for re-election for Goffstown Town Clerk. I'd also like to thank the Lions Club for hosting this forum tonight, and I'd especially like to thank Diane and the library for putting together the candidates booklet. When Diane approached me about the candidates booklet, I said, I feel that this is very important that you put out this publication because it gives people an opportunity to tell a little bit about themselves and why they're running. And I said, the only thing is that I don't know how much time I can put into this project because I'm preparing for the New Hampshire presidential primary election, which is a big undertaking. And so I put together something brief, and on election day, I still didn't have a picture of myself, and my daughter was there, and she snapped a picture and sent it in. So, Diane, I met my commitment, and I thank you for your efforts. When elections happen in town, I put my full effort into making it the best election that I can help prepare for. And I work under the direction of moderator Rod Stark, who is wonderful to work for and very supportive. And I'd like to thank my family for being there to stand behind me when I put my everything into preparing for the election. When I go into election zone, everything else doesn't happen, okay? Probably nobody vacuumed, probably nobody let the dog out. I don't know, but my family was there to support me. And so I love you for that, and thank you so much. And I say that preparing because starting tomorrow, I'm going to be dialing people again to say, can you come work at the March 10th town election? As I look around this room tonight, I see a lot of people that were there to support the election effort. I'd like to ask everyone that came and worked at the election to stand up, please. I think that all these folks deserve a round of applause. As I look around the room, I think it's interesting how I get people to come work at the election. And I'm going to start with David Pierce. He committed a long time ago to come work at the election, and then he came back and said, Kathy, the supervisors approached me and they'd really like me to be an assistant supervisor of the checklist. Can I be released from my commitment to work with them? And I said, that's a very important job. David, you go work for them. And what schedule would you like me to slot you into? So David told me that he could only give 24 hours. No more, because he had military experience and he could work a 24-hour shift. And when I looked around at the end of election night and the supervisors are still trying to get their checklist books counted up, who was at that table having started at 6:15 in the morning but David Pierce? And he was there diligently ignoring all the other confusion that was going on, and he was counting the numbers and helping the supervisors get to a conclusion. And it's that type of dedication that makes the difference when we're trying to prepare for an election. I don't see Brad Parkhurst tonight, but I do see Steve Broskowski. These gentlemen spent the day before the election, starting at 8 o'clock in the morning down at Goffstown High School. They spent a good share of their day on their hands and knees, taping down all the signs that led from the back door through to the front hallway, through the gymnasium, back out, and turn people left to go to the back parking lot with the orange tape or blue tape to the front parking lot to lead people back there. This was a tremendous amount of work. They were joined by Select Board member Collis Adams. Collis stopped into the office and said, you know, Kathy, how's it going? Do you need some help? I'm like, yeah. These guys that are down there taping the floors really could use some assistance. And he said, I'll be there. And he showed up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and stayed for the afternoon to help get that done. When I was trying to recruit people to come work, the chairs of both parties in town, the Republican Party, Catherine Shea, and the Democratic Party, Marie Morgan, they stepped up and they were on the phone, and Marie was in and out of the office saying, what do you need, Kathy? How can I help? They were out there recruiting people to help. Melanie Renfrew-Hebert, she's on an email saying, how can I help? What do you need? Karen, I'll be there to help with anything you need at the Bartlett School. And she came and served and did a great job. Scott Gross, he's someone that shows up on a regular basis. He leads the evening count team. You need good people that you can delegate to that are going to head a group of people to do a certain task that makes a big difference in how the evening comes out. And I appreciate his efforts so much. And I especially thank his wife for sharing him with us for election evenings. I depend on his assistance, so thank you. Other people in the community step forward. Retired bookkeeper Evelyn Redmond that worked for the town. She's excellent at Excel. She came to help run a spreadsheet of the tally sheets in the evening. Town planning assistant Patty Gale, after she got out of work for her daily shift, she came down and helped the supervisors count at night. Town administrator Derek Horn, he came and he was on his hands and knees and he was helping lift all the boxes. All the boxes have to be taped in a certain way to seal them in case there's an audit. He helped lug those back to town hall, and he was there at 11 o'clock when I couldn't even hardly see straight, and he was helping plug in all the numbers into the spreadsheet so that he could load that so that you folks could see the results on the town website. So I have help from the state reps, Fred Plett came and served as an assistant moderator. Barbara Griffin was there to run a checklist book. John Burt said, let me come in the morning. I've got to go work part of the day. He came back and worked the end of the shift at Bartlett School. All the time and effort made for a great election day. There's people here that I look out and see, like Gail. She took the day off from her business to come and serve. Phil, he came at night, dependable, always there, ready to help count, knows what to do, doesn't need a lot of supervision. The best part, though, was as I talked to people in the community and I said I still need more help, people were saying to me, what can I do? How can I help? What do you need? What's the job? Oh, my neighbor down the street would be perfect for that. Let me call my neighbor and have them get in touch with you. And we had lots of new people that came and worked. That was terrific. Carmen and Richard, they were there. People love to see people that are familiar faces. They got to see their neighbors. There's a lot of socialization to the day, besides the important welcoming of people to the community and running a fair and impartial election. Each day I look forward to going to work as a town clerk. When I get up in the morning, I tell my grandchildren, you have to look for what is the joy in the day. My joy in the day, Monday through Friday, is getting up and going to work and being able to serve as your Goffstown town clerk. There's lots of challenges. There's lots of interesting people to meet. There's people that need help on the telephone. They need their email returned. They need something explained to them that doesn't make sense about the process. I get to welcome new people to the community and put my hand out and shake their hand and say, welcome to Goffstown. I don't have all the answers, but I know a lot of folks. And if you need assistance, I'm going to tell you I don't know, but I know somebody who you can be referred to that can help you. I love what I do. I'd like to continue for another 3 years, and I ask for your vote on Tuesday, March 10th. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kathy. You know, just a little something in following up to that. As we adjust the microphone. You know, sometimes you speak to people who live in other towns and hear about, oh, I have to go down to City Hall, I have to go down to Town Hall. And sometimes they do it with a little bit of a long face, because sometimes what they have to deal with, not in this town. For numerous times I've had to go down to Town Hall for whatever reason. The efficiency and the way you're treated down there is just absolutely superb. That's a great group of people. They, put it bluntly, they know their stuff down there. So it's never a case of, oh, I have to go down and get this done. I know if I go down there for a reason, it gets done. And it gets done quickly, and you get a smile, you get a thank you, good to see you. And that makes a big difference. And we're very lucky, because you don't always get that in other places, but you get it here. So to Kathy and everyone down there, thank you. Thank you guys very much. And next up for town moderator, Rod Stark.
Good evening. Rod Stark, running for moderator. It's a 2-year term. Back in 1980, I got a call from the then town clerk, George Amo. George said, Lloyd is not going to do it anymore. Remember back then, there were like scads of paper ballots over all the tables. And said, well, I'll tell you, the secret to counting in Goffstown is Roger and Jerry Orbit, the Orbit brothers, from Orbit Hardware. And so, 'cause they get it all organized, they bring in all the people, they do all the counting, and they never make a mistake. All right. I'll take your word for that. And I told George Amo that he could put me in. And, so, put it again. But that's okay, because I love this town. I was actually born in this town. I only went away to school, then I came back. I didn't graduate from this building. I was the last class to graduate from high school. Okay? Which has been repurposed into a beautiful new purpose. Both of my sons graduated from this high school, and I've had a lot of reason over the course of 40 years to be at this high school with Kathy and others at election time. Kathy, I'm not sure how successful I would be as moderator if it weren't for Kathy Ball being, she does all the work. I gotta say, it's a pleasure working with Kathy and Karen and, well, just everybody. I mean, I didn't make up a list of everybody that helps out, but there's a lot of them. I'll tell you, I don't know how, you must have had close to 70 or 80 people working the polls this year, maybe more. 175, there you go. That's a pretty good testament to what's involved in an election, and just getting them lined up is a major stroke of work. Now, I don't make the calls to get them, but I keep in touch with Kathy, and she lets me know how it's going or what the difficulties might be, and then of course we're always getting sort of guidances, if you will, from the Attorney General and the Secretary of State's office, and then they have their training programs, which are helpful. But so running the elections is a very important job, because I don't ever want to lose freedoms that we have in doing it and the way we do it, because here in New Hampshire, we have a paper backup for every single vote. And that is really, really important. Because I bet you what's going to happen in Nevada, it happened in Iowa. You wait. It's not sounding good. But anyway, we don't have that problem. But now we have to keep those ballots for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, or there's whatever. They're locked up in the town hall, I guess. Anyway, and Jim alluded to the civic engagement disappointment. I think this year at the deliberative session for town meeting, we had one standing vote. I mean, I called it right by voice vote, but then somebody they challenged me. So then they all stood up, and it was 35 to 11, confirming that I was right. But that tells you the 36 people that came to the deliberative session of town meeting. That's not very many. I like the good old days. I'm just that way. I mean, I like traditional town meeting, but I think we've gotten away from it, and so be it. We do with what we've got. It would be nice if we had more participation. I mean, I like at the deliberative session, if we can engage in somebody challenges another person. Claire was there as a good participant, of course, and so it's a real honor and privilege to be town moderator, and maybe nobody else wants the job because nobody's running against me, but I'm glad to do it. And I hope you all turn out to vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Rod. And next up, we have the candidates who are here. We have the school board, and we will start with Heather Trapez.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Heather Trapez, and I am running for the Goffstown School Board for my third term. My husband and I moved to Goffstown about 12 years ago. We have 2 children. My son Joseph is here in 9th grade at the high school, and my daughter Abigail is in 7th grade at the middle school. They both started at Glen Lake in the kindergarten. Since my children started school, I have been inside the schools as a parent, volunteering, helping with book fairs, chaperoning field trips, helping teachers in any way they could. For the last 6 years, I've been a dedicated school board member. I've sat on the Finance and Administrative Committee, Policy and Review Committee, both for the SAU and for Goffstown, the Area Agreement Committee. A few years ago, I was a part of the Bartlett search for the new principal. When our Bartlett principal was retiring, a subcommittee was formed and we needed to find a new principal. Through the years, I've been an alternate for the CIP, which is Continuing Capital Improvement Committee, and also CNE, which is Continuing Education Committee. This past year, I was elected the chair for the SAU School Board, which consists of the New Boston Board and the Goffstown Board. Over these years, I've learned how our district is run. Everyone plays a crucial part in maintaining a quality school district. I'm rerunning because I feel our schools, along with everyone in it, are very important to our children and to our community. Being on the school board to me is establishing a vision for our schools that reflects the community, district staff, and our students. It is a place that plays an important foundation to our students for learning and how to succeed in the world today. I am honored to be a part of something so important for the last 6 years, and I hope that you vote for me so that I can continue to serve on the Goffstown School Board. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Heather. And up next is Susanna Buzzell.
Hello, everyone. My name is Susanna Buzzell, and I'm running for the first term for the school board. Prior to this, I was actually on the budget committee for 4 years, and I have learned how our school operates and what is necessary to make the wheels running in the community. I would like to run because I would like to help plan the long-term sustainable plan for our schools. It is important that we prepare our students for the future. And the preparation for their future career starts very early nowadays. It starts at school. And we all in the community play a role in it. So I am living in Goffstown for the past 15 years. I'm married, mother of 2. I have a son in middle school who actually is sitting right here, so I'm continuing the civic duty very early with him. And then I have a daughter in Glen Lake, and both of my kids are obviously going through the public school system right now. In my professional life, I am an Associate Dean of Business for Southern New Hampshire University. So on a daily basis, pretty much I evaluate the impacts of student experiences on their future careers and where they are in life. And what we'll have to see right now and nowadays, that there's so much pressure put on our school system from the budgetary point of view, where a lot of the financial burden is put on the municipalities. And then you have different funds cut to very important programs such as transportation money, and you have, increase in design of curriculum, and you need more money for technology to keep up with the modern world. So our children are asked to accomplish more in shorter period of time, and at the same time they are facing larger competition from other people in the market. So I hope to help develop some long-term sustainable plan and to be a valued member of the school board. Thank you.
Thank you. And next up is Otis Hendershot.
Am I the last one?
Someone snuck in.
Okay. As the final candidate tonight, I'm going to try to keep my remarks to a brisk 45 minutes. Seriously, Otis Hendershot, my wife and myself and my two sons moved here just about 2 years ago from Massachusetts, and we absolutely love it. And I'm a product of the public school system. So I am a proud graduate of the David Prouty High School of Spencer, Massachusetts. Go Panthers. I graduated with an undergraduate degree from the State University of New York at Geneseo. Something or other, their sports teams were terrible. I also have a master's degree from the Rochester Institute of Technology. Professionally, I'm the Chief Information Officer for one of United Health Group's divisions, which is a fancy way of saying that I'm responsible for overall technology, execution, delivery for a $45 million a year P&L. I'm running for school board for a few reasons. I think the most important is I have a vested interest in it working well. I've got two kids that are currently in it right now. Second, I would say that my belief is that access to a high-quality education system is critical to a functioning democracy. And it's something that I believe very deeply in. It's something that I grew up with, surrounded by. My aunts and uncles were teachers. My mom's cousins were teachers. My brother is a science teacher down in Massachusetts. My daughter just graduated from UMass Amherst with a degree in elementary education, which, by the way, also means that I have a built-in peanut gallery in case I stop knowing what I'm talking about if I were to get this position. But I think it's really important that we're focusing on our schools. And I think that the reasons why this is so important is that the challenges that are presented to kids these days need to be met with a proper education system to prepare them for it. I'm really interested in three issues, obviously the wide range of issues, but the most important ones to me are being able to make sure that our school system has the resources it needs to continue on its mission of providing a quality education to the students in the district. Also, I think it's really important that we are bringing on and retaining the top talent at really all levels. It's a differentiator for any city and town to have a really high-quality school system with high-quality teachers. And I think the third part is making sure that we're making decisions around those things in a cost-effective and efficient way, that we're utilizing the town resources wisely over time. And I'm asking for your vote. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Otis. Were there any candidates here tonight who did not have a chance to come up and speak? Okay. Before we start to wind things down, I was speaking with my wife before I came over here, And yes, I got a lot of requests when I was calling people. Ken, you're going to tell a joke this year, and yes, I do have one, but I also got a very unusual request from one of the candidates who shall remain nameless. But he said, you know, I'm a big Green Bay Packers fan, and last year you told a story as an analogy about Vince Lombardi. He said, do you have any more Vince Lombardi stories? I said to my wife, I said, you know, when you call people, you never know what they're going to ask you. Obviously, here I'm calling about candidates night, and this guy's asking me about Vince Lombardi stories. So I do have one. And it was from the book called When Pride Still Mattered. And the thing about Vince Lombardi, he was a very focused person. And that's one of the things that he talks about that made him very successful. He was very focused on what his mission was. And he will tell you his mission was to win. That's what it was all about. But the story I'm about to tell you, it's a true story. It was told by his wife, Marie. And it's funny, Kathy Ball mentioned about election night and just being in that zone when that starts to take place. And this was about Vince Lombardi, that during the off-season training camp, his wife Marie would drive him to the stadium each day. And it was the same thing. She would say, you know, she would always drive. He'd sit next to her. He would never utter a word. He was already thinking what he was going to be doing for the rest of the day. He never said a word to her. And when they pull up in front of the stadium, he would look straight ahead and says, Marie, I'll see you at 5 o'clock. And he would turn and give her a kiss on the cheek, open the door, and leave. One day they had to stop to pick up a friend of Marie's who needed a ride to work. And they went to the house. Vince got out of the car, let the gentleman sit in the front seat with them. Marie proceeded to drive on to the stadium. And when they got to the stadium, Vince Lombardi just looked forward. He said, Marie, I'll see you at 5 o'clock. He kissed the guy in the cheek, got out of the car, and never looked back. And that's focus. So, Kathy, just make sure who you're kissing, okay? Okay. But as serious as this is, we always like to have a little lighthearted fun. And so I tried this joke out on a few people. It got a good laugh. It's funny. For those of you who are into the Bible, you'll get I think, a kick out of this. Moses is walking down the street one day, and he runs into George W. Bush. George W. Bush says, you know, hi, Moses. Moses panics and takes off running. All right. Next day, Moses is walking down the street again, runs into George W. Bush. George W. Bush says, Moses, how you doing? Moses just panics and runs away. So the third day Moses is walking down the street. He runs into George W. Bush, and George W. Bush says, Moses, how are you? And Moses takes off running. This time, George Bush runs after him, finally catches up with him, and says, you know, Moses, why do you run away? Why won't you speak to me? And Moses says, are you kidding? The last time I spoke to a bush, I ended up wandering in the desert for 40 years. So for all those Bible people, you know what the joke is there. But anyway. All right. Again, I want to thank all our candidates for being here this evening. You know, we all have busy lives. There's a lot going on. And we really appreciate the people who are able to be here. And for those people running for office, you know, good luck. Best of luck to all of you. I am going to ask, as I said at the beginning, if the candidates can just stay for a few extra minutes. So if anyone has any questions or just wants to catch up with any of our candidates, to speak with them. We also appreciate all of you who are able to actually be here tonight. And Adam told me this will be on YouTube, I believe, and other outlets. And again, I just want to remind the candidates, if you'd like, definitely, like I said, catch up with Adam about doing a campaign video. Good man, he'll take good care of you. Yeah, waving. Thank you, Adam. All right, again, thanks everyone for being here tonight. Thank you to the Lions Club. Thank you to Diane. Couldn't have done it without you again. We appreciate it. Everyone have a great evening.